and there are a lot of functionalities around. And if you try to use the assignment operator double equals to compare two strings, then you are comparing reference variables. But in order to compare the content, you need to use dot equals to operator. You need to use dot equals to in order to compare two string objects. Then only you are comparing two string objects. String is a class, remember, built-in class. Okay. So as we know yesterday's discussion, so each time when you create an object, a reference variable is created and object will be created inside the memory. Okay, but there should be, right, like let's say in this JVM you created objects like as many as you want. Okay, you started referring, right? You started referring with different things like with the reference variables you started referring outside, right? So whatever the way you started referring them. But see, if you keep so how these objects are created? Using the keyword called new. Each time when you use the new keyword in order to create an object, then memory will be allocated for all the variables inside the class, and all the methods that has been there, it will be loaded into stack memory. All the variables will be loaded into heap memory, and reference variable is created with the corresponding 8 bytes of size. And each variable is assigned, each variable will be assigned with corresponding memory size based on the data type. So your JVM keeps filling out, right? So if you have 8 GB, if you create 8 GB amount of amount of objects, then what will happen? You ran out of memory, right? You ran out of memory, right? So there should be some logic, there should be some mechanism to clean up whenever you are done with a particular object. Whenever you are done with a particular object, there should be some mechanism to clean up those objects. Whenever there is a mechanism, there should be some mechanism to clean up those objects so that the memory will be freed up. So let's say while executing this object, these four has been done. Whatever the operations that you're supposed to do, whatever the manipulations that you are supposed to do, whatever the business logic that you're supposed to want to execute on these objects, those are all been done. So if you remove from the memory, then this memory will get freed up, so you can start using for other purpose as well, right? So for that purpose, Java has a concept called garbage collector. Okay, concept called garbage collection. Okay, so Java will have a concept called garbage collection. So basically, like in Java, we have a new operator to allocate memory for all instance variables, but we don't have any functionality to deallocate. There is no such logic you can write in your code so that it can deallocate the memory. There is no such logic. Okay, there is no such keywords. So what JVM will do? JVM will clean up this with the help of garbage collector concept. What is this garbage collector is? It is a, let's remember the keyword, garbage collector is a service thread. Okay, garbage collector is service thread which is running behind the scenes and clears the memory as and when it sees it reaches certain max memory, it will clears out automatically. It will trigger inside the JVM whenever you are running, and it will clean up the unused memory, or it clean up by using certain criteria conditions. It will clean up. Okay, So who creates this service thread? Who creates this garbage collector? JVM creates it. Who terminates this garbage collector? JVM terminates as and when it is done. So, but when you have a 10 objects in memory, so how this garbage collector is going to choose among these 10 objects which one is ready for cleanup, which one is ready to come out, which one is ready for cleanup from the memory. So garbage collector follows certain rules. What are those rules? Let's say simple. Okay, three interesting rules that this garbage collector follows. Let's say you have an object 1, a reference variable is holding an object which is with some variables inside. Okay, it is holding this object 1 reference variable is holding some object. Okay, so whenever you make in your code obj1 equal to null, okay, so what will happen? Let's say this address is 1234. So this address object reference variable is holding 1234. So in the next line, this is the first line of your code, this is the second line of your code. Whenever you make obj1 equal to null, what does this mean? This null, this 1234 will be removed, null will be placed here, which means the object has been disconnected with this object1 reference variable. This one has disconnected, right? So in this case, whatever the memory this object is occupied, this is ready for garbage collection. This is ready for garbage collection because this object got disconnected from the reference variable. Nobody can access it. Make sense? So that is one criteria. Okay. So whenever we assign an object, whenever we assign a null variable to an object, then whatever the value that object is holding, whatever the object that object1 is that object reference variable is holding, that object becomes eligible for garbage collection. Let's say this one is using like a 500 MB of memory. This object is using, generally doesn't, but just for the namesake, let's say 500 bytes of memory. Okay, 500 bytes of memory this object. So whenever it got disconnected, nobody is referring this, nobody can't access it, because anybody in Java, if somebody want to access any object, they need to access through corresponding reference variable, right? So as soon as it got disconnected and nobody is referring it, so this one nobody is going to use it. So Java considered this one as eligible for garbage collection. Okay. So when you assign null to any reference variable, then object which is referenced by that reference variable is eligible for garbage collection. Okay, simple way, I'll show it to you quickly. Can you guys able to hear? Okay, cool. Uh, okay, nice. Um, sorry. So I created garbage collector demo class. So what I will do, just I'll create a simple um, class. Okay, so now I created a jet engine class. So what I will do here, j equal to okay, jet engine dot p equal to 30, jet engine dot d equal to 33.0, something like that. And then what I am doing here, jet engine equal to null. Okay, so in this line, so first what happens, this line, when you run this program, this line will create the memory, right? What will happen, je reference variable is holding the object jet engine object, right? Jet engine object holds the jet engine object, object will be held by je reference variable, and I assigned some played with the variables. So up to this line, okay, garbage collector is not going to do anything. Garbage collector is not going to touch it. Why is it? Because this object, whatever the object that has been created, has been referred by JE. So as which means this object is still using, somebody is going to use with this reference variable, so garbage collector thinks I should not use this guy, I should not clear this guy, because somewhere down the line somebody will use it. But as soon as you mention je equal to null, as soon as you make the reference variable is null, then this object, whatever the jet engine object that we created, become orphan. So when it becomes orphan, so nobody is going to use it. So then when you ran out of memory, or when you reach, let's say you have a 2 GB memory, and if you reach 1.5 GB of memory occupied by JVM, then garbage collector triggers. Okay, so this memory is used by a lot, and I need to start looking at unused objects, and it identifies whatever the object that has been created, and it will clear it out. Okay, that is one criteria. Okay, what is the other criteria? Let's say jet engine JE2 equal to new jet engine. Let's say this one is 1. So okay, that is one criteria we discussed. Next one is JE2. So this lines also can remove. For this concept it is not required. So now you created JE1 and JE2. Will garbage collector is going to pick anyone, any object for garbage collection? No, because both objects has been referred by someone. So let's say this object has been created at 1 2 3 4 location. So 1 2 3 4 location is going to be held by JE1. This one is 3 2 4 5. So that object is going to JE2 reference is going to hold 3 2 4 5. So both cases, both reference variables are holding some objects on two different objects of same class. So garbage collector won't trigger. So if you try to, let's say JE1 JE2. Now what I'm trying to do, I assigned whatever address it is there for this object, I assigned it to JE1. So who is eligible for garbage collection now? This one become orphan. So it's as simple as this. Let me show it to you. J1 is going to hold 1 2 3 4. This is the address of jet engine object. All the instance variables will be there. This is the address. And another jet engine object we created. All the variables. And we created another reference variable JE2. This one is 3 2 4 5. So next what we did, we take JE2, whatever the value inside JE2 reference variable, we are assigning to JE1, which means whatever the value that is there in JE1, JE2, we are assigning it to JE1. So when you assign this value, this becomes 3 2 4 5. Whatever the JE1 is also going to hold 3 2 4 5, which means this address, this object, which means this one get disconnected, which means this object is eligible for garbage collection. This is eligible for garbage collection. Okay, as soon as there is no reference for any object on the memory, then that becomes a garbage collector eligible. Okay, when you assign one object to another, then unreferred object will become eligible for garbage collection. Another scenario is let's say okay. So in this scenario, what I'm trying to explain you is, when a reference variable reaches out of scope, then that object is eligible for garbage collection. When the reference variable becomes out of scope, then those variables become garbage collection eligible. So how many reference variables are here? 1, 2. So JE1 and JE2. What is the scope? Let's take out this line. Okay. So JE1 and JE2. What is the scope of JE1 and JE2? Within this method, the scope of this method is the highlighted part. The scope of these variables, the reference variables, the scope of JE1 and JE2 reference variables of class JetEngine is within the call JetEngine method. As soon as it is out of this method, then these reference variables, these two objects will become eligible for garbage collection. Which means, see, this line executes. How the program execution goes on? This is the highlighted part execution, right? So first line executes, nothing happens, and then it calls call JetEngine. So when it calls call JetEngine, it will go here. The cursor, the execution goes here. It will create JE1 and JE2. Two objects it will create, and it's the end of the program, end of the method. So it's done here. It goes third line, line number 8. So at this line, these two objects, JetEngine objects, holding by JE1 and JE2, are become eligible for garbage collection because the scope has been died within this method. Getting my point? So that is the another rule for garbage collection, another condition for garbage collection. Okay, so so there are few more concepts are there, like generally GC, whatever the garbage collector concept that we are talking about, invoked by JVM. You can't invoke, like you can't force the JVM to invoke the garbage collector basically. So if you want to invoke, we can use, JVM still provides certain options to you to trigger these, so that garbage collector will be executed and clean up the memory. So such methods are, one is system dot GC, another one is runtime dot get runtime dot GC. So by using one of these approaches, you can request JVM to trigger the garbage collector. You are not forcing JVM to trigger the garbage collector. You are just making a request. You're just like, hey, this is the area I want to call garbage collector. Can you consider? That's what we're going to say by these two lines, by using one of the lines in your program, and convey the JVM. So JVM, it's a JVM's discretion to whether to trigger or not. Make sense? Okay. So JVM doesn't guarantee for executing any JVM calls, but we can't force it, but we can request them. Okay. And there are some scenarios, let's say using your Java program, you are reading the Excel sheet. Okay, an Excel sheet of very huge data. Using your Java program, you started reading all the columns, all the rows data that has been there. So what does it mean? It is an external IO call, input and output call. It is an external IO call, which mean what does it mean? Does Excel sheet is part of Java? No, right? But you are able to read the data. How come you are able to read the data? Java comes up with some libraries. Using those libraries within the JVM, what we will do, first you load the logic that you have in order to access the Excel sheet. Okay, so all your program, whatever the programs that you wrote, right, whatever the Java classes that you wrote, whatever the objects that you create, whatever the methods that you are accessing, everything is within the JVM, right? Everything is within the JVM. So Excel sheet is not part of your JVM. Try to understand. Excel sheet is not part of your JVM. Excel sheet is some Windows Windows tool that is sitting somewhere in your hard disk. So from JVM to hard disk, you are making a connection, network call, that is outside the IO call. It is IO call, not a network call. It's IO call, input output call, and you started reading data. You have let's say you have 1 GB of RAM. So in that JVM got 500 MB, but you have 2 GB of Excel sheet data. Simple way, simple math I am trying to explain you. Okay. So for 500 JVM, you started reading data, which is 2 GB of Excel data is there, and you started you continuously holding the data. You are not releasing any objects. So what will happen? GC will try garbage collector whenever it reaches close to yeah, whenever it reaches close to JVM max memory, then garbage collector will trigger and try to clean up. But as you are still reading the data from the Excel, garbage collector may not able to clean up the memory. That time what error you are going to get? Out of memory error you are going to get. How to resolve that error? You need to increase the size of your JVM. Okay. So that's what sometimes some objects may refuse GC to reclaim the memory because those objects are holding some other resources like IO resources, like I explained, Excel sheet, or network resources or database connections. So first we have to release the resources, then GC will clean up the memory without problems. So it's your responsibility to write the cleanup code because you know better about the resource what you are using in your program. So if you want to write any cleanup code, then you need to write that cleanup code inside a method provided by JVM called finalize. A method called finalize, which will be triggered by JVM. Okay. So let's say there is a concept called, give me 1 second. Finalize. Let me see quickly if I can show you through some examples so that you can easily understand. Okay, let's do simple. I have simple scenario with me. Let's say int x equal to 25. Let's define this outside. Okay, and some string gc diameter equal to okay, let's say gc dot xyz. Yeah, whatever I'm writing you can easily understand, right? These are all the topics we discussed already, so I'll I'll explain a little bit more when I write something specific to garbage collector. Okay, let's say you have private void int1. There is another method I'm going to write, public void finalize. So here I'll do method 1. What is the problem? Oh, sorry. So you call these two, and let's say what I will do is system dot gc. So we know this is how you can request gc to trigger. This is how you need to request gc to trigger what you called one way of triggering this way. Another way is runtime dot get runtime. This is another way. For now I'll just comment it down. So when you trigger this, basically what will happen, first finalize will trigger. Finalize is built-in method. Okay, so JVM generally we can write this cleanup logic. Here is a cleanup logic you need to write. Any database access you are doing, all these things you can clean up here in this block. Okay, finalize is built-in method that has been coming from object class. Object class is the super class that has been there superclass of your entire Java, entire Java application, entire Java classes that has been there. Who is the superclass? Object is the superclass. One of the method that has been there in the superclass object is finalize. We'll go deeper into that. For now, just remember into that line, to that line. So what is the purpose of finalize? Finalize will be used to JVM finalize. Inside the finalize method, you need to write the logic, whatever the logic that you want to, before triggering, before requesting the GC. Then whenever JVM sees this line, right? Whenever JVM sees this line, what it does, it looks for, is there any finalized method that has been written by the user? As simple as that. Is there any finalized method written by the user? If we wrote any finalized method, it will execute whatever the logic inside. Generally, what logic you need to put? You need to put all the cleanup code. If there is any, like if there is any network calls, if there is any IO calls, if there is any database calls, clean up those logic inside finalize. Okay, and then it will trigger GC, and then it will trigger GC. So by writing this line, what will happen? First, it will look for finalize method, and whatever the logic inside finalize method will be triggered, then GC will be called. Okay, so let me run this. So I'm calling method 1 and method 2. I'm not calling finalize method, but still you can see this line getting printed because you are calling system.gc that will internally calls finalize. That's what all I'm trying to say. So if you look at here, you don't see finalize is getting called, even though you wrote this line and whatever the statements that I said, it is going to print, but it didn't. Why? Because you can request JVM to run, but you cannot enforce. You cannot enforce. Okay, make sense? You can request GC to run, but you cannot enforce. Okay, let me say like here GC equal to null. Did you guys got what I'm trying to do? Now this time it is speed. Now this time you can see the output coming with finalized GC before GC. All I did is just added GC equal to null. So garbage collector identified, okay, there are some objects which are ready for garbage collection. So before triggering garbage collection, what it does, it triggers the finalize method, and then it cleans up the memory. Okay, so garbage collector will be sensible enough to know whether there are garbage collecting eligible objects are available or not. As soon as it finds, then first it will look for, is there any finalized method that the developer wrote. If there is any finalized method, it looks for what and all the logic that has been wrote inside the finalized method, and it tries to execute all the logic and then start calling the available garbage collector objects, and then clean up those memory. Okay, so yeah, go back and read further around that logic. So that's it for garbage collector. So as part of garbage collector, there is one thing that triggers is finalize. So if you observe, we haven't requested to call this finalize method. We requested method 1, we requested method 2. We haven't requested finalize, right? We haven't requested finalize. But then how come it is able to trigger this line? Because this is a built-in class that has been there. That is a built-in class that has been there inside object class. See, if you look at here. So this is the object class. Okay. This is the object class which is inside the package called java.lang, built-in package called java.lang. So this is the superclass of what you can say, yeah, it is a topmost superclass for all the classes in Java. Whatever the classes that you wrote, whatever the built-in classes that has been there inside Java. Who is the superclass for all these things? Object. Object class, it is not object, okay? It's an object class. Don't get confused. Whatever we wrote in a day-to-day is an object of particular class. But this is object class. Make sense? So how can we say, generally, when do we say like, if, let's say, if I say, let's say extends, let's say there is a class called human or like a person, right? So in this case, you can say student superclass is person, right? But as per the definition that I just mentioned, object is the topmost superclass for all the classes in Java. But we haven't wrote anything something like extends object. We haven't wrote anywhere, right? Then how come we say object is a superclass for everyone? Yeah, that is something by default. There are certain defaults, like, if you don't import java.lang, still you can use whatever the classes that has been there inside java.lang package, right? That is a default imports by Java. So another default is each and every class that you wrote on a day-to-day base, and each and every class that has been there inside the built-in classes, or extends object will be there. Extends object will be there. Okay. So object is, what is object class? If somebody asks what is object class, object is the topmost superclass for all the classes in Java. Okay. So let's see what and all there inside object class. This is first built-in class that we are going to look inside. What is there? Java.lang. Okay. So what and all there? See, if you go to in Eclipse, if you try Control O after going into the object class, you can see all the methods that has been available inside object class. These are all the objects, built-in classes, built-in methods, built-in functionality. This is coming from Java. Okay. So one such method that just now we used is finalize. Okay, one such method we used is finalize. This is the method we used here, finalized. So what are we doing between object and GCDemo2? So by default, what will happen? GCDemo2 extends object. So if you write same method name that has been there in the superclass with the same return type, same what you called access modifier, then what we can call it as method overriding. So here method overriding happening between GCDemo2 and object class. What is the method? That is finalize method. You getting my point? So method overriding is happening. That's what we just did. We just method overrided finalize method. We just method overrided from object class to GCDemo2. Okay. So what and all other classes are there? Register natives for first time being ignored. Get classes is like it just gives the class name. Hash code. Remember, hash code is important. Okay. And another one is what? Equals. We used equals method. Did you guys remember? Where we used equals method? Comparing two string objects. Comparing two string objects. But is that the same equals method? No, we use the string class equals method. This is objects equals method. So if you look at what is the logic is there, it is comparing two object reference variables. If you observe, this is two reference. One is local and another one is the incoming argument. So it is comparing reference variables. Reference variables never be same. Can we agree on that? In the world, what is the concept of Java object? In the entire world, anything is considered as an object and no two objects are same. No two objects are same, right? If you are same thing, because you are comparing two object reference variables, not the object values. You are comparing two reference variables, two reference variables. You are comparing two reference variables using equals method of object class. But if you go to string class, is it worth to go to string class now, or am I confusing you? Okay, for time being, remember, if somebody is in interview, what they will ask is like, equals method in object class, what logic, what is the comparison happens in equals method in object class? The comparison happens between two reference variables, not between the objects. So let me write it down, simple line. Equals method in object class compares two reference variables. Go back and read these statements, okay? These are all very important statements, variables, okay? And double equals to assignment operator compares two reference variables. But equals method equals method in string class compares two object values. Okay. Two object references. Okay. So just now I said one statement, object is the topmost superclass for all the classes that has been there in Java, right? String is what? String is another built-in class. String is another built-in class in Java. So string also should have superclass as object, right? So so let's see what is there inside string class. Equals method, what it does. So we saw here equals method in object class, it is comparing two reference variables, right? Let me go to string class. What is the command? I forgot. Yeah, string. which version we're using? 1.8, right? So if you want to see a built-in classes, right, Control Shift T. If you want to see built-in classes, you need to use Control Shift T. This pop-up open type will be there. string. You can see bunch of classes. You need to pick which Java version you have, corresponding java.lang. There are bunch of string classes are there, right? But whichever the ones applies to you, applicable to you, you need to pick. This is the one applicable to us. So here let's go to equals method. This, in order to go to all the methods inside the string class, Control O in Eclipse, equals. So equals of object, there is another, right? So what this guy is doing, he will check each and every value. We will check each and every value inside. What is the length of the string variable, what is the length of the variable, and then he will compare and he will remember each and every value. Will check, let's say orange, right? He will check one character O and O. Two, you are comparing, when comparison happens between two objects, right? So two string objects comparison is two oranges, right? When you write orange, two oranges, one, it will look for O and O, next R and R, and next A and A. It compares like letter by letter, and if everything comes up same, then only string class equals method says they are same. But object class equals method, what it does, it just looks for is it having corresponding right reference variables or not. Make sense? So for the sake of you guys satisfaction, let me do a simple way of representing. Okay, 1 2 3 4, this is the address of this string. Okay, let's say object, some object. Okay, the address is 1 2 3 4. Here, like, a equal to 10 is there, b equal to 20 is there. Okay, this is the address is given to some object x. Okay, this is the obj1. Okay, next another one, a equal to 10, b equal to 20. This address is 3245. So this is going to our 3245. This is obj2, second object. Okay, here try to see, if I use obj1 double equals to obj2, what I will get if obj double equals to it becomes false. This logic becomes false because it comparing 1 to 3 is double equals to 3 to 4 5. Is it same? No. So it returns false. Next case is what? Object class. If obj1 dot equals of obj2. Object also what it does? It compares the reference variables values. This is the value it compares. Again, object also, object dot equals method compares values inside the reference variables. Okay, so in that case also it will return false. Okay, but when it goes to string, what will happen? String str equal to, let's say, orange, ORANGE, 1 2 3 4, str1, str2 also having orange. This one is address is 3245. So now if I say str1 dot equals of str2, what it returns? what it compares, what is this method? This is the method inside string class, because when you write like this, right, a string str1 equal to orange, the equals method is belongs to string class. So what string method does, it will check the length first, if both lengths are same or not. So in this case both lengths are returned as 6. Then what it will do, letter by letter comparison it will do. If everything comes up same, then it will say true, else it will say false. In this case it will be true. Make sense? Yeah. So go back and look around these 3 points. Okay, very important. Equals method you use every day. That is how you comparison. See, why I am saying is, let's say there is a concept called there is a students. Okay, there are 10 students in the class, so you create 10 student objects. Each student is having roll number, name, for the time being roll number and name. So if I want to sort them, I need to provide some criteria. What I will say, sit in a classroom in such a way your names are in alphabetical order. Okay, I asked all the students that has been there in the class, want to sit them in the class in such a way like all the based on their names in alphabetical order, right? So in that case you need to use name comparison. Name is what? A string. So string dot equals of string. So in that case Siva, let's say Siva and Rakesh are there. So which letter comes first? R comes first. So you compare Rakesh dot equals of Shiva. It falls, and you need to identify which letter comes first. Then you need to allow that resource to sit first. So a lot of scenarios, going forward we'll see, we'll make use of this equals method a lot. Okay, and what is the other methods in object class? Yeah, equals method we just discussed. ToString also there. I'll explain. Notify all, wait. So these things will be we discussed in when we talk about threads. Finalize we just discussed. Object.ToString, what it returns? So it returns the class name plus some hash code that it is going to. So let's go to this guy. You created some object, right? Yeah, let's disconnect. Okay, so there is nothing is there. Okay, so you have this GC demo, right? So if I try to display SYSOUT GCE dot, see when you say, right, GCE dot, you will see some methods automatically. ToString, get class, hash code, notify all, where these methods are there. You haven't wrote those methods here, right? But those methods are there in the superclass called object. Those are there in the superclass called object. By default, each and every class is going to extend the object class. That is the reason when you extend it, what happens? All the base classes will going to have, all the child classes is going to have all the functionality that has been there in the superclass, right? That is the reason why you are able to see all the methods that has been there in the object class in your GC demo 2 class. So this is the method, right? When you use ToString method, GCE object dot ToString, let's see what will happen. What it displays, we'll see, right? See, when I try to display GCE dot ToString, what it is displaying? com.bellinfo.badge4 session to GCE demo. What is this? This is the fully qualified name of a GC demo class. This is fully qualified name of a GC demo Java class. At the rate some value, some value generated. Let's go back to this object class. See what is the toString method. What it does? Get class dot get name. Get class dot get name is returning fully qualified name of that class at the rate and then integer dot to exa string hash code. Some hash code will be generated, some unique value will be generated, and assign it to the fully qualified name. So when you try to access an object as is, instead of accessing the variables, instead of accessing the methods inside the object, when you try to access the object as is, or else when you try to access the object through dot to string, then what it will return? It returns fully qualified name at the rate a hash code. Okay. What else is there? Yeah, for today this is all about. So I'll send that assignment 3. Exceptions tomorrow. I'm not taking the class. I have some personal stuff need to be taken care. So I'll take another class on day after tomorrow, and